So a couple of years ago, I got a call from a friend of mine, and she wanted to inform me that Jeff had died. Now, I hadn't spoken to Jeff in over 20 years. Ironically, at the time of that call, I actually had the family Christmas card sitting on my desk. My intention was to call Jeff, but I never made that call. You see, something I didn't know and no one told me about was that I did not even have a clue that Jeff was actually sick. Jeff was my age, and Jeff was in great health. And now the opportunity for me to call is gone. So I'd like to talk to you about those calls you have not made yet and let you know there's still time. My name is Bernie Tiger, and I have spent over 3 decades sitting across men who have been carrying this exact same thing that I just described a moment ago. And in this video, I'd like to talk about Jeff and what his loss taught me about leaving friendships on the table. So Jeff and I met at an event. You see, my then fiance and his then fiance both worked together at a radio station, and the radio station would have these events quite frequently. And it was at one of these events I was introduced to Jeff. When Jeff and I first met, we literally hit it off right off the bat. We had so much in common. You see, Jeff, like myself, he was a big guy, 6'3", just a big guy. And also had a big heart, lots of humor. And he also had that adventurous streak like I did. And Jeff and I found this camaraderie in the things that we both had enjoyed and passion with, which was spending time outdoors, which is where I'm filming here right now, an outdoors event. Both of us enjoyed getting out and camping and hiking. We loved boating and water skiing. We loved taking those mountain rides. Absolutely. We were avid skiers, downhill skiers, and loved to have some fun with that as well. And we were also skydiving buddies. You see, Jeff didn't come along for the ride with me in life. He made my ride significantly better. So Jeff was, at his heart, a humorous, caring, good person, and we were definite kindred souls. We were two of a kind. So, Jeff and I had passions about doing things extreme and outdoors. So I was with a friend, and we were traveling around the countryside, and we were up in the mountain area, and I remember seeing these things falling from the sky. Did not know what they looked like, almost pepper flakes coming down. And then all of a sudden I see these parachutes, canopies deployed. And I realized that there's 2 people that are skydiving, like literally right in front of us. Now, I had never seen like that close up anybody skydiving in a setting of mountains, right? So I asked my friend, we got to find out where they are. We got to find them. And we drove until we could get an idea, then we were able to find it. And it turns out that this was a club. And the club was a small group of people that jumped out of a couple of Cessnas, 185s, and they basically, their field, a cow pasture, was where they had their drop zone and their actual landing strip. It was a cow pasture, and they were in a farm, and they, I guess, leased some space there. So anyway, this club, when I found out about it, I told Jeff that night, I'm like, Jeff, oh my God, we've got to do this. We've got to do this. And lo and behold, within a couple of weeks, there we are at that time, that first initial intake with this opportunity for us to go. And it was an option of we could go with a tandem jump, or you go for a ride, or you go on a static line initially and learn how to free fall yourself and skydive. Well, we were obviously not going for a ride with somebody else. We wanted to learn how to do this ourselves. So for that first jump, we go to Tom's place, and he's also in that same area. He's in a farmhouse, has a lot of farmland, and he's a jump master, and he's also the instructor. So we go and we sit and watch a couple of videos, VHS videos, and we walk through some scenarios. We have a lot of discussion points, And the goal was the next morning, we would at 6 a.m. get on this harness he built outdoors, and we would have to have this basically looking at what it would feel like, or having the ability to feel the sensation of what that free fall will initially look like, that initial fall. And he kind of had this makeshift harness that he made outside. It was a big wooden frame, and you basically would hang there, and it was to simulate that actual initial first drop. So that night we asked if we could camp out in his field. So brought a big tent, and me, Jeff, and 2 friends who I invited to join us with this for this very first jump. And I decided I was going to make this pot of chili, and I made it quite spicy. Actually, I made it far more spicier than I probably should have. And I got a couple of loaves of French bread. And the 2 friends brought 2 cases of Budweiser beer. Now, I didn't drink really Budweiser beer at that time, and I might have had one. Jeff had a few, I think, if I recall, and we ate the chili. And I knew that that tent probably would not be a safe place to be in for that evening. So I negated the opportunity and said, I'm going to go sleep out under the stars. And within probably a half hour, Jeff comes out and joins me, and he's like, dude, you're not going to want to go in that tent anyway. It was pretty bad. So that next morning, we were going on the harness. So it was very windy out that, very much like the condition like today. You know, the wind was 15, 20 miles an hour or so. It might have even had greater gusts than that. So we go on the harness, we practice this thing with the harness. Now Jeff was pretty not feeling really good. He was feeling a little bit green around the gills. And the other 2 guys were definitely not feeling well. So this was not probably the best way to start out your very first skydive, as being, you're not feeling the 100% your best. So we get to the landing zone, the drop zone, the landing field, and it was only maybe half a mile away from where we were. So we get up there, and again, it was really windy out, and Tom, we spent about maybe 40 minutes or so going back and forth with some other testing, went through the parachute rigs and everything, and Tom made a decision that it was not safe for us to go out and to have that initial jump. It was not safe for mostly, he wanted to ground the planes, and he definitely didn't want some newcomers going out there on their first jump. So they were saved, and a decision there that we were saved by Mother Nature for not making that first jump. But we got to go the following day. And in that second day, on that very first jump, and it's so memorable because we get in the plane, and Jeff and I, again, we're big guys, and this is a Cessna 185. It's a small plane, and it was only Jeff and I and our one small friend that were the 3 that could go on there. Tom was also the pilot and the jump master, so I was the captain of the team, so I had to go out last. I was the one who's going to be going down with the ship, as they would say. So I was going last, as it was designated. So I was in the tail, all the way in the back, legs into the tail itself. Jeff was behind me, kind of straddling, and then our friend was behind Jeff, straddling. So we're getting ready, we're heading down this strip to take off. Again, a cow pasture in the middle, in this mountainside area. And as we're heading down the strip, starting to gain speed, Tom, the jump master, yells to us, and we had radios and earbuds, a headset that we could hear everything through our helmets. He yells to us, please lean forward. Well, you need more ballast up front. And then I immediately regretted my decision, thinking like, what the hell did I decide to do? And we're already committed to it. And now I'm told that we need to lean forward in order to get that plane off the ground. So we get off the ground, that first jump, great time. Everything goes perfect, just an enjoy. And then from that point forward, we were addicted. We were hooked onto it. Now, a year later, I get married. Jeff was already married now, and now a year later, I get married. And at our wedding, Jeff was in my wedding party. His wife was in the wedding party. And that as a gift, one of the gifts that he gave me personally was a free jump. Two basic free jumps, because you paid for the gas, and because it was a private club. And I think at that time, a general jump was like $30 or $25 at the time, something crazy. So he gives me 2 free jumps, right, from this. And I said, oh my God, this is such an incredible gift. Thank you, bud. We are going tomorrow morning, right after the wedding. Before Valerie and I, my wife, go off on our trip, you are going with me, and we're going and we're taking a jump before I go off in my very first day as a married person, right? And he was like, yeah, they were totally gung-ho. We were going to do this. We have the night at the wedding, the reception. Now, I didn't drink as much as everyone else did because I was the groom and I had to have a little bit more interaction and engagement with everyone around there. But we definitely had a great time, a great party. And that next morning, two things. I remember telling Valerie, my now wife, I said, if this marriage is meant to be, I will not die on this jump. I will survive. And if it's not meant to be, well, then I'm going to save you years of unhappiness because this will be my last time talking with you. Kind of morbid, but and that was kind of my crazy humor at the time. Crazy is probably an understatement. Anyway, so we get to the jump site and we're ready to take this jump. And Tom, the jump master, once again looks at Jeff, and Jeff was looking a little green on the gills again. He definitely drank a lot and he was definitely not feeling all that well. And I did everything to convince Tom's I'm like, man, you gotta let him go. He's gotta come. This is absolute legendary. It was a day after my wedding. It was so important that he had to be part of that with me. And, after some cajoling and realizing, okay, that Jeff knew what to do, he decided he would let us go. So needless to say, after that jump, I survived. Jeff survived, of course, and the marriage continued on. And we have been together now for almost 46 years. So something worked there. But Jeff was that type of friend. He was that guy that was your to-go-to guy. He had your back. He was there for you. Him and I we were like two of a kind and a kindred souls together, and things like what I've just shared with you, that was Jeff in a nutshell. So Jeff and I had this friendship that was very rooted in our souls. We were very much kind of soulmates in a friendship side. And when Valerie and I moved away, had an opportunity to move to New England. It was more employment related for me in the business world and opportunities. And so we moved away. And that first year we stayed in contact. Again, we were very close friends, but now states have separated us. Many states have separated us. And now we don't have that necessarily that connection. Now we're living outside of right up off the corner of Cape Cod. So I invited them on one of their trips coming up northeast to come on and would spend some time together. And they tried to make a couple of stops. And at that time, Jeff actually had their first son. Valerie and I already had our first son at this time. Michael at the time was 2 years old when we moved to New England. But now Judy was pregnant and they had their first son. So our lives started taking a different path. And after that first year, we had contact. And then all of a sudden, time just continued to move on. Life went moving on. Families grew. And time started to go by day by day by day. And then the days turned into weeks, months, and then they turned into years. And long before I knew it, there was all this time was going by. I never not thought about Jeff and Judy and our relationships and the fun and the friendships and that camaraderie. But other things came into life at that time as well. We were moving into a different realm of our journey. Michael was growing up and our roles changed. And it was something that when I look back at it today, and I have a lot of regret certainly for this, but mostly thinking about it from the context that guys and girls, let's make this clear, this is men and women, but mostly men particularly, that when we have that separation, it isn't something that we immediately make quick connections with. And as time goes by, it becomes less and less, not so much important, but just not necessarily on your radar. It's not on my calendar or planner. So time goes by, and before I knew it, it was well over 20 years, and I had not heard from Jeff in all that time. So going back to that call that I received about Jeff dying, I was unaware that he was sick, but he had cancer. And again, Jeff and I were the exact same age. When we were together back in the day, we were very fit, healthy, athletic. We were big guys. And he would have been the last person on earth I would have ever imagined you would say, had cancer, and let alone would die at a young age. He was young. Okay, 60 years old is young. As far as somebody who is 63, I can look at 60 years old as young. But with that being said, he had a lot of life left. I had no idea that this had happened, right? And the challenges we face, and here's where my clinical piece comes into play. For men, we were never taught about relationships with each other, from men to men. We were never given any instructions. We were never given a how to do this when you have men talking to men and relationships with each other. And most particularly when we have separation, whether it's miles, it could be states, it could be countries, whatever that separation looks like. As we move away, we have found that, and here's where this is really important to understand, clinical relationships, when I teach this from a clinical perspective, it is about understanding that we were never educated about, having that opportunity or proximity. Like, in other words, if your son and my son are in school together, the chances of us continuing friendship are high. If you and I grew up in the same neighborhood, we're still in that neighborhood, the chances of us remaining connected are very high. But once there's a separation and we don't have those commonalities anymore, this is where that separation becomes more prevalent. But women definitely have connections where men lose it. Women, it may be biology, it could be psychology, it could just be the relationship piece itself. Where men, again, if we have that proximity, we have that connection. If we have things that we're aligned with other activities in our lives, we have that connection and friendships endure. Once that's removed, we have never learned how to continue that relationship. And here's the part that makes it difficult, and it's the awkwardness. And I'll share this from my own perspective and my relationship with Jeff. As time went on, my interest to reach out to him never waned. If anything, as years went by and I realized it was like, holy shit, like 9 years went by and I had not heard or been in touch with him. Those first few years we had Christmas cards and things going back and forth, but nothing really connected wise. And now it was like nothing. We didn't hear from each other at all. And then it was like, oh God, I want to reach out to him, but I don't, because now I'm embarrassed. Oh my God, I let all this time go by. And then of course the psychology kicks in, like, well, maybe he doesn't want to hear from me anymore. He didn't reach out to me, so maybe he doesn't even want to hear from me anymore. Maybe he's moved on from the friendship and he's moved into a different realm of his life and he doesn't care about it anymore. And all of these rational lies, right? Rational lies is 2 words, rational lies, that we do for ourselves. I did for me, because I felt that, all these years passed, it's so awkward now, and I just don't think it's going to work. If I try to reach out, I'm going to feel rejected, and he may not want anything to do with me, and then all of the fond memories I do have will be tarnished, because now I'm thinking of it from that that perspective. Now the new perspective is that, hey, I just let him go, and all of a sudden, I try to reach out and he's like, hey man, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Well shit, that's going to ruin my entire history and memory of that friendship, right? And we put this stuff in our heads. Guys specifically do this. Again, the men I've worked with, hundreds and hundreds of men I have worked with over the years. And it's the same formula with everyone. It's the same formula. We feel that, oh my God, time went by, I feel awkward. I can't make that connection. I can't go just call you to say, hey dude, man, I was thinking of you, because something is just weird about that. We were never taught. And society kind of gives us that masculine approach that you just don't do those kind of things, right? You don't show emotions. You don't put your feelings out there. You don't become vulnerable. Big piece here is that we don't become vulnerable. We don't want to be vulnerable. So as a result, we separate and we don't know how to re-engage. And it becomes this very strange kind of understanding of a relationship that's past, and that we have this, again, separation. We don't know how to connect. But what I can tell you, there are 3 things that I have taught, again, many, many men, and I'm going to give to you for free. 3 things that you can do that will help you in this process. First of all, if you have a Jeff of your own out there, or Jeffs, I should say, it could be plural, please take the time to pay attention to this and make this effort. So here are the 3 things. First, make a list of all of your Jeffs. Don't think through it, don't intellectualize it, just write down your Jeffs. 2, now that you have your Jeffs, look through that list and pick one, not 2, not 5, pick one. And that one person I want you to pick is going to be the one that is part 3 of this, the one that you're going to feel the most uncomfortable reaching out to. Not the one that maybe I just had a few years separation, it won't be hard, but that one that has been in my past, and it's going to be the difficult conversation. Because here's what's going to happen. That difficult conversation and this 3rd part here, when you make that actual connection to that one person who is probably the least that you want to try and connect because so much time has passed, that person on the other end is going to be just as you would feel if that person reached out to you. If that person reached out to you right now, how would you respond? Would you be like, holy shit, dude, man, like, wow, where the hell you been? And why are you calling me now? Our lives have passed on and grown and we're kids, whatever. I don't have time to talk with you. I mean, that was a lifetime ago. We're not those same people anymore. I gotta go, see ya, bye, click. That's not how you would respond, I know that. And that's not how that person is gonna respond on the other end either. They're gonna respond the same way you would expect yourself to respond. And that is, holy shit, dude, wow, where have you been? I'm so glad to hear from you. Hey, oh God, I can't believe it. This is amazing. Hey, I was just thinking of you not too long ago too, right? This is what happens when we make that connection again. So the 3rd part is that uncomfortable person you want to call, make that call, please. I'm giving you this as an opportunity for you to not have the Jeff yets that I have. I have a lot of regret, and somebody who's been in behavioral health for well over 3 decades, somebody like myself should have known better, and I do know better. And I felt that same feeling of regret, but at the same time, when he was alive, it was like, yeah, I'm gonna make that call. Oh, he reached back out. My intention is to make that call. I'll get to it, XYZ. And what happens? That procrastination, because again, uncomfortable. I'm gonna push it off a little bit. And now Jeff is not here. I don't have that opportunity, but you do. And you have a chance to reach out to somebody in your life. You have a Jeff out there and they're waiting to hear from you. So please take the chance, be vulnerable, and make that call. So this is Silver Warrior's journey. If you've gotten this far in the video, you are a Silver Warrior. This is for men 50 and older. And we have men topics here. We talk about issues that men face. We also work together to help each other through our experiences. I have a community that is specifically just for the Silver Warriors group, and it is in my community membership site. It's a free membership. You just fill out a couple of questions for it, but there's no charge. And it's called the Tiger's Den, and that's my group. And in that group is this access group called Silver Warriors Journey. And I would love an opportunity to hear from you. If you found any value in this video, consider subscribing to the channel. I have a lot of content going forward, a lot of things that we're going to be discussing. I'd love to have you be part of that journey and be part of that, exactly, the Silver Warriors journey. So thank you for your time. And if you're here this far, you're a Silver Warrior. I'm blessed and fortunate to have a shared journey with you, and thank you for that. And I'll see you in the next video.